Motivation. What is it? Why is it that some people can work endlessly towards trying to achieve their goals, whilst others can't be bothered to even make a start at trying to achieve them? Now, I'm sure you're all aware, I'm not exactly very qualified to answer any of these sorts of questions, as I'm only a student. But at least in my experience, I can confidently say that motivation is the single most important characteristic in achieving success. I always like to imagine motivation in combination with natural ability, in the form of a bike race, where one person has one of the best bikes in the world, possibly the best, having 6 gears, maybe more, an extendable chair, effective brakes, everything is going right for this bicycle. And then there's another person who has one of the worst bicycles, having 3 gears or less, covered in rust. Nothing is going well for this bicycle. It's one of the worst there could possibly be. And they're both in a race with one another. And so the race begins. Now, naturally, the better bike should win. It's in the lead, and it's unsurprisingly. But then something unforeseen happens, something you couldn't quite believe to happen, in the fact that the worse bike, someone manages to overtake and inevitably win the race. Now, why is that? Why is the worst bike losing this race? It's the better bike. What is it that made the difference? Well, both of these bicycles contain one constant, the pedaling power. And this pedaling power, I believe to represent one's motivation, where one's motivation can be the deciding factor in between two people in terms of how they win, who wins and who loses. And so, in this metaphor, I consider this to be a principle which I've always believed in. Now, it could be said that, what if two people have the same motivation level? Then, obviously, the one with the better bike would win. But I don't believe that. I believe that if you keep trying and trying and trying and trying, eventually, you can achieve your goals. Now, this principle, or better yet, a belief of mine, has been incredibly influential in my life. In 2011, I decided to do something I'd never done before, something I'd never had the opportunity to do before, which was to join a sports team, specifically the badminton sports team. Now, if you don't know what badminton consists of, it's essentially the hitting of this, otherwise known as a birdie, across a net with the use of one racket per person. And there are both single matches, one person versus one person, and doubles matches, 2 people versus 2 people. And I was intrigued by the game. I wanted to learn a new skill. I wanted to try something different. I wanted to do something which I'd never done before. And so I saw this, and I figured, why not? So I gave it a try, and over time, going to every weekly practice, I found a passion. I enjoyed it. I wanted to do it more. I loved playing the game. I loved doing everything related to it. And so 3 months later, I decided to submit a form to try and join the U14 badminton boys team. And luckily enough, I managed to get in that team. I was immensely happy, like any kid at the age of 11 would be. Why wouldn't they be? I was ecstatic. I was over the moon at the idea of being part of something more than just having to do schoolwork, being part of a sports team. Now, come the following, later in that year, came the first tournament. There was only one tournament per year. And for the U14 team boys, there were 4 players. And each player was categorized based on their skill level, 1 being the best, 4 being the worst. Now, understandably, I was ranked as 4, being the worst for that year. Because I wasn't particularly great at the sport to begin with. I could hardly hit the birdie, let alone get it over the net. I wasn't at all skilled whatsoever to begin with, but I still wanted to try and learn something new. I wanted to try something which I had never done before. And so I practiced, and I played, and I played, and I played, and I managed to make it to the tournament. And so come this tournament, I was eager to do what I could, because this was the first tournament, or first ever experience I had where I went somewhere where my parents weren't. This was the first time I was ever alone learning something by myself, which was a major thing for me at the time. And so I played, and I played, and I played, and I played, and I played to the best of my ability for that tournament. But I didn't win very many singles matches. As a matter of fact, I didn't win a single game. I was the single worst player at this entire tournament. And I was gutted. Who wouldn't be? even at the age of 11 when your emotions are elevated beyond belief. It was an unforgettable experience, which I'll never forget. But then just to add to that, my other teammates, my other team members, my doubles partner managed to place second, and the other two boys in my team managed to place third in doubles. When we were going back home from the tournament, I was the only boys player not to have won a medal. It was horrible. It was a horrible feeling. But from that moment, I came to realize that if I wanted to achieve something, I had to work at it. I had to dedicate time. I had to dedicate work. I had to do what I could to be better. And so come the second year, I did that. I went to every practice. I tried to do everything I could to get better, to improve my skill, to do what I could. And in this tournament, I managed to do better. I managed to win more singles games. I managed to improve my play. And overall, our team managed to place second, which I was immensely proud of. I managed to win that medal. But it wasn't enough for me at the time. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to improve from being the very worst to being the best. That was the goal I set out from the beginning. And so I was a bit disappointed, but I was still happy to have won that medal. It was something that I accomplished, something I'd never done before. Then came year three. Year three, I tried to improve whatever I could to try and be better. I believed that every game I played, I got a little better. And so I played the best of my ability at that tournament. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough. We placed fourth overall as a team in my singles matches. They were hardly better. They were only a little better. My improvement was so minimal. I was extremely disappointed. But then I realized that I had to make a difference. If I wanted to achieve my goals, I had to commit. I had to do more. And come year four, this was my last year in the U14 badminton boys team. I was 13, turning 14, and I knew that this was my last chance to get that first place single match medal that I'd always wanted to do, I always wanted to achieve. And so come that tournament, I played and I played and I played and I played to the best of my ability. And I made it all the way to the single match finals. I was immensely proud. I was over the moon. I was ecstatic. Emotions were going crazy inside. My heart was pounding. And come the final game as I was playing, I could hear people cheering in the background. I could hear people yelling my name, both people from my school and people that I had befriended over the years at the tournaments. I was extremely happy to have made it that far and over the moon to have achieved what I'd achieved, but I focused on one thing, that being winning that game. And so as it came match point to me, I smashed the birdie down as hard as I could, and I managed to win that game. I managed to go undefeated in the single matches for the second seed. I was over the moon. I was ecstatic. It was the proudest moment of my life. I was overjoyed with a rush of emotions, adrenaline going down, but also up at the same time. It's indescribable. But the thing was, I was somewhat disappointed in the fact that our team overall, we placed second. We didn't get that overall victory that I was hoping to end on a high note on. I wanted to end my entire journey on a high note. I wanted to end it the best way it possibly could end. But that wasn't meant to be. And come later on, I came to realize when thinking back of the whole experience over the 4 years, of the whole experience of the badminton team, of what I learned, what I did, and I realized something. It's hard to describe, but I think this quote best summarizes it in the idea that continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. This quote perfectly summarized my entire experience in the sense that I went from being the very worst player to being arguably one of the best players going undefeated. This quote perfectly summarized the idea that each year I got better and better and better, and eventually I achieved my goals. So the next time you're taking up a new skill, you're taking up a new thing, or joining a new sports team, or whatever you're doing, think back, or whatever the start you have, even if it's the worst start possible and you have the worst bike, you can still win the race. Thank you.